All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we've learned how to solve by factoring, and we've learned how to solve using the quadratic formula. But now we have to do grade 11 algebra type questions. So, solving quadratic equations day 2. Well, it would have been day 2, except we're at COVID math. The roots of a quadratic equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c can sometimes be found by factoring. And the roots of a quadratic equation of the form ax squared plus bx plus c can always be found using the quadratic formula. Nothing new, we just covered this. Solve each of the following. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And so we've got some algebra to do. That's a pretty neat question. They're not just giving you a trinomial. So we need to do some algebra. I'm going to go x minus 3 squared equals 2x plus 2. Then I'm going to do x squared. Now, this squared, this times this is going to be negative 6x, and then plus 9 equals 2x plus 2. Now remember, to do any of this, it has to be in ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. It has to be in what's called standard form. And that means that it equals 0. And that means that the a value should be greater than 0, should be positive. So my x squared is positive, so I'm going to leave that alone. I got negative 6x. I'll bring this 2x over, so it's x squared minus 8x. I got 9, bring the 2 over, so that'll be plus 7 equals 0. So now, how do I want to solve this? It's my choice. Do I want to use the quadratic formula, or do I want to use factoring? Let's see if factoring will work, because it's so much faster. Two numbers that multiply to give 7, add to give negative 8. 1 and negative 1 and negative 7 seem to work. So I'm going to do this by factoring. So those are the factors, but they're not the roots. And someone asked me after the Kahoot, how do you know what you're looking for? Solve. Solve means find the roots. Find the zeros. Find the solutions. Those are factors. So the roots, the zeros, the solutions are x equals 1 and x equals 7. And that's all there is to it. That is a grade 11 type question. Fairly straightforward one, but a grade 11 question nonetheless. Let's take a look at the next one. So, x minus 3 squared is going to be x squared minus 6x plus 9. The 2 gets multiplied in, it becomes 8 minus 2x squared plus 1. Notice the 2 did not get multiplied by the 1. Now, I want to get this in standard form, so I want my x squareds to be positive. So I'm going to take my negative 2x squared and bring it over here and get 3x squareds. I'm going to take my negative 6x and leave it alone. And I've got 8 plus 1, which is 9. So when I bring negative 9 over, it's going to be 0. Now, I could use the quadratic formula here if I want. I could do ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and a equals 3, b equals negative 6, and c equals 0. And I could use the quadratic formula. Or I could look at this and notice that I could common factor it. So if I common factor, so I have two things that multiply to give 0. Did you see what I did there? I made a times b equals 0. So that means either 3x equals 0 or x minus 2 equals 0. In which case, x equals 0 or x equals 2 are the answers. And I'm done. But again, please understand that you could have used the quadratic formula as well. Just understand that your C value would have been 0. Okay. Any questions? Then we're going to move on to our last one. Look at that. You need an LCD. I want to clear the fractions. You're going to clear the fractions by multiplying every term by the LCD. What is the LCD? Well, we've done work with this last week. It's x plus 2 and x plus 1. So we have to multiply every term by that. I have to multiply every term. So when I do that, I'm going to multiply x plus 2 and x plus 1 by 1 over x plus 2. I'm going to multiply x plus 2 and x plus 1 by 2 over x plus 1. And this is where people make a mistake. They sometimes forget that they have to multiply the left-hand side as well. Because if they don't, then they're not holding the equality. So notice that each and every term got multiplied by the LCD. Now, why did we do that? We did that because look what happens. It's a beautiful thing. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous thing. Do you realize what you just did? You just changed this question to that. No fractions anymore. No more denominators. They're all gone. So then I expand. So 1 times x is x. 1 times 1 is 1. Negative 2x, negative 4. X times x is x squared. Plus 1x plus 2x plus 2. Leave the 3 on the outside because I chose to. I can do it in any order that I want. This will be x minus 2x, which is negative x. Positive 1 minus 4 is negative 3. This will be 3x squared. This is going to be 3x times 3, which is 9x. And this is going to be 2 times 3, which is 6. You want to put it in standard form, which means you want the x squared to be positive, and it is. So leave it there. Don't move it over to the other side. Let's move everything else over here. So I'm going to get 0. 3x squared. 9x plus another x is going to be 10x. And 6 plus 3 is going to be 9. I wonder if this will factor. So I come over to another piece of paper or off to the side, and I'm trying to come up with two numbers that'll multiply to give 27 and add to give 10. And I'm thinking the only two numbers that multiply to give 27 are 9 and 3. And there's no way they're going to go together to give 10. So this does not factor. Well, if it doesn't factor, that means that we must go to use the quadratic formula. So you must use quadratic formula, where A is going to equal 3, B is going to equal 10, and C is going to equal 9. I'm going to put a little line down here so I have some room to work. So using the quadratic formula, it's going to be x equals negative b plus or minus square root 100 minus 4 times A times C, all over top of 2 times A. X is going to equal negative 10 plus or minus, I don't know my multiplication, so it's going to be 4 times 3 times 9, 108. So that's going to be X equals negative 10 plus or minus square root negative 8 over 6. Now 8 is 4 times 2, so that's going to be X equals negative 10 plus or minus 2 root negative 2 over 6. And I'm really running out of room here, so I'll put it on another piece of paper. Let's see. So I was at X equals negative 10 plus or minus 2 root negative 2 over 6. So if you're following along, this is where we're at now. We want to common factor out a 2 because we want it to reduce with the 6. Negative 5 plus or minus root negative 2 over 6. The 2 and the 6 will reduce, leaving you with negative 5 plus or minus over 3. And that is a perfectly good answer for you guys. These are complex roots, which means that the parabola is not going to touch the x-axis. There's no x-intercepts. That means something. And the other way you could write this, if you wanted to impress the girls, it would be, so this would be 2 times negative 1, that's a times, over top of 3. So that becomes negative 5 plus or minus root 2 times root negative 1 over 3. And as I told you, us mathematicians have a special symbol for this. We call that I. So you could write this as negative 5 plus or minus I root 2 over 3. And that would be the real grown-up way to talk about it, but we're okay talking about it like that too. I'm going to stop the video there, take answers, and then we're done for the day. Take answers, take questions.